Hello again, Broncos country.
Really excited to chop up some Broncos with you all this week.
Bourbon, Broncos, and no BS.
Orange
Time, your favorite time of the week. We're not for the Raiders, Chargers, or Chiefs. So grab your brews and your fantasy league. We've got that blue and orange blood that you bleed. Like Lindsay, Sutton, and Judy. We are that Mile High Broncos country.
Orange Weekly, fans, brews, and Broncos news. Hello, Broncos country, and welcome to yet another episode of Bourbon Broncos No BS. Team Puffball is here, and Jared, and
also Jared.
Wow,
so,
that escalated quickly.
Yeah. So just so everyone knows, tonight's show is brought to you by Jared's Mustache. So we're happy to have them both here today.
Speaking of things that are
show
not
too.
escalating quickly, things are escalating very slowly.
I do like that. I appreciate that, Dick. However, look, I mean, it's coming in. It's starting this Movember thing.
It's coming. Yeah.
Man, I'm just gonna say I need a lot of whiskey for a night, guys. I'm still drinking from Sunday's.
Yeah, you know what, Kevin? So I listened to the pregame podcast, and if any of you guys haven't, shameless plug here. Go ahead and go listen to the pregame podcast. I'm surprised you and Tanner stayed nearly as calm as you. That's not fair, Jasmine. You can't.
Jasmine,
all right, look. So here's the thing.
Fan right now.
Here's the thing. You were calm on that podcast, and I appreciate how calm you guys stayed for the most part, because I know you guys recorded that right after the loss, and I know a lot of Broncos country was really mad, and I have a few things to say about that. I'm going to get on a soapbox here probably a little bit later in the show about what I think of the Broncos country Twitter specifically, and some people and the way that reacting to some of these losses. Obviously, it was a tough loss, and yeah, we're all sad, but don't talk about throwing the Broncos out. Don't talk about, like, I'm going to abandon the Broncos. Get the fuck out of here. Sorry, I'm going to calm down.
It's, if that's what it takes to get you to abandon the Broncos, you can go. It's fine.
Yeah.
Go on. Yeah, we'll be here.
Yeah, now don't get me wrong. Yes, the game was absolute trash, and yes, we're all pretty mad about it, but we're still here. We're Broncos country. We're going to be here regardless of what's going on. Orange Weekly, we've been here 5 years. Thank you guys, everybody who's commenting. We really appreciate it. Everything is, I'm not going to do it. It's going to be Team Visor all day. All right? Yeah. Got to show off this luscious head of hair that I don't have.
And that spindly upper lip of hair. Go ahead.
Anyways, going back to it. We're gonna be here regardless. Let's get into it. Let's get into the show before enough about talk about the mustache.
So yeah, post your comments, post your questions. We're here to talk with you, not at you. This is what we do here at Orange Weekly. We're all about fans, brews, and Broncos news, and fans are number one there for a reason. So tons of people here, tons of familiar faces and names. Robert, Daniel, Justin, you're all fantastic. Jonathan. So yeah, I guess quick synopsis, at least from me. One, it's the Raiders. God damn it! Like, there's just something special about losing to the Raiders that just brings me to a whole extra level of just anger, right? I want to get into it a little later, but besides Drew Lock and the question marks I have with that, my bigger question mark is surrounding Phillip Lindsay. And I want to talk about that later, but overall, it just seems like,
let's talk about it now.
I was going to say, what are we?
Let's talk about it now. Because this is the white elephant in the room. This is it.
And I don't know if you guys know something that I don't, but why are you have Phillip Lindsay back there, who is essentially the face of the offense, 1,000-yard rusher 2 years in a row, and now you're giving him 4 touches in a game? What?
Yeah, and what bothers me is I understand, like, you're watching him not be effective on his first couple of runs, getting stuffed in the backfield a lot early on those runs, but, you know, the Devontae Booker for the Raiders had 5 rushes for 7 yards on his first 5 touches, and then he finished the game with 83 yards. You know, they stuck with him. They kept trying to move the football on the ground, and it worked for them eventually. Well, you know, a big part of it was the fact that our defense was just on the field the entire game, but eventually they were able to wear us down, get those rushing lanes open, and get to be effective on the ground. Why can't we do the same? Why are we just surrendering on this running game so early?
You know, and I backed up Pat Shurmur last week against Atlanta. We got down pretty quick. We were trying to catch up pretty early. This has we were within a 1-score game until halfway, basically right into the beginning of the fourth quarter. There was no reason to not stick with the run game and to not give him the ball. And he was out there for a few plays, but none of them were run plays. And I get that it's sometimes hard to get him going, but I mean, look at the Chargers game. He had absolutely nothing until he broke out that one play, and that's all it needed for the Denver Broncos offense to get going and get ready. Because I don't understand the thought process. I understand go where the money is, but I mean, it's not like Melvin Gordon was doing much better.
Yeah, and it was just an offense that nothing was going right for for the entire game, and you have to wonder though. Can they be any more effective than this just by giving one player the ball a little more?
And not just that, but you're struggling in the pass game. Drew Lock threw 4 interceptions. 2 of them were early, 2 of them were late. But he threw 4 total interceptions, and you're talking about you're not trying to give him a little bit of a break by handing off the ball. It's not even like I said, Melvin Gordon didn't even get the ball that many times. But I don't understand the thought process behind that. I'm just a little skeptical, and I don't know. Maybe the only thing I could think of is maybe Philip Lindsay isn't full healed, even though right after his turf toe, he had a 100-yard rushing game and ended up like killing it. I don't know. There's got to be something else there that we're not seeing.
It's got to be, because at this point, and we had Tanner and I talked about in the post game podcast. Again, go listen to it if you haven't. Man, if we lose Philip Lindsay, because what I'm talking about, he's going to be a restricted free agent next year. If we're going to do dirty by him, if we're going to do this to him, why would he want to stay in Denver?
Yeah,
so you're talking about a possibility of losing Philip Lindsay. Yeah, I mean, he'd be the type of player that will gladly take a hometown discount. But if you're telling him, hey, go sit on the sideline, we'll give you a little bit more money. Why in the world would he do that? And so I'm thinking, and hopefully this is just an overreaction and nothing ever comes from this. But if you lose Philip Lindsay, I don't. John Elway is gonna be in so much shit with me. I mean, I'm just like, at that point, I'm gonna be like, I can't understand anything you're doing anymore. And I am not a fire Elway guy. I'm not trying to jump ship or any of that stuff. But yeah, I get that it's Fangio's team and Shurmur's offense, but at some point, somebody's got to go, hey, why aren't you using Philip Lindsay more? He's the one that's been doing incredibly well with the run game. What is going on? And I think Fangio and Shurmur especially have to answer those questions, and they better have a good answer.
Yeah.
Right. And the one, I mean, he had his first carry, he had 2 or 3 yards. The second carry, he lost 4. And that was not his fault. I mean, that someone blew up in the middle, blew right through Cushenberry, I believe it was, or it might have been Anderson. I think they flew right by Anderson with our 5th string tackle in there, and just was in the backfield before he even got the ball. So that was definitely not his fault. But then to just not give him the ball, it just doesn't make sense to me. I just don't understand it.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, I know we're fast forwarding a little bit to the offseason when I say this, but get ready for Philip Lindsay to get like a 2nd-round tender from the Broncos, and if he gets signed somewhere else, then we get that team's 2nd-round pick. But I think that's probably how it's going to go down.
But that doesn't make sense. Why would you do that when he was such a workhorse for you in his first 2 years? That doesn't.
And let's be honest. And on this team right now, with the absence of Von Miller, obviously Von Miller's the face. He's a franchise guy of the team. With the absence of Von Miller, who's our guy?
Right?
Who's the face of the franchise? It's fucking Puff Hair. Right? You know what I mean? Like that's the face of the franchise. That's what everybody wants to see. The hometown kid, Denver South kid coming in, went to CU Boulder, coming in doing really well with the Broncos. I just don't get it.
Are you telling me that there's
And
a
he
chance
never.
we could
There you go,
get
Derek. And he's never fumbled. He hasn't
with
fumbled in
almost
2 years.
500 carries, almost 500 carries. And so, one, why are you not using him? Two, you're telling me you're going to give up a running back that has the longest streak of rushing attempts without a fumble since the merger.
I would.
That's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
Here's one more thing, and this is again in the not defense of Pat Shurmur, but Pat Shurmur's trying to play that spread offense. The one thing that Philip Lindsay is pretty awful at, and we can all agree on, is the pass game.
Yeah.
He's not very good at catching passes out of the backfield. So if Pat Shurmur's trying to run the spread offense, he wants guys like Melvin Gordon in there. But when you're throwing 71% of the time in a game that's close, when we know that our strength is our run game, it's just. I know, and I know it's really hard for Broncos country to kind of get over the fact that the strength is our run game. We have probably two of the best running backs in the AFC West. Maybe two of the best running backs in the AFC West, and
it's a crowded running back room in the AFC West when you go down the list of teams there. Yeah. I mean, the Chargers cupboard is pretty bare, but everybody else has got some people there.
Multiple.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you already have such a huge part of Broncos country that are calling for Elway's head. If there's even a rumor of talking about getting rid of Lindsay, you're probably going to see these people start, taking up arms. And right outside of Broncos Stadium, which is now nicknamed the ER. But it's beyond me. That was the big thing. By the third quarter, I'm sitting there. I'm like, out of everything that's going on. And if you remember, Melvin Gordon got injured really early on. He went down, and I was like, okay, I even texted you guys. I was like, cool, now we get to see Philip Lindsay, right? They sent out Royce Freeman before Lindsay.
Yeah. Yeah, I know the Royce Freeman concepts on that specific drive. The Royce Freeman made sense, but and this might be something we might not be seeing it. There's a lot of things that we don't see, but there's got to be something behind the scenes here. There's got to be that's the only excuse. There's got to be something behind the scenes in that locker room that we're not seeing. Either he's not feeling well, or he was, sad about something that day. I don't know. There's got to be something.
And I think it sends a terrible message to your locker room, too, if you don't take care of a guy like that financially.
Right.
A guy who you signed undrafted, who, was your favorite team growing up as a kid, a guy who gave you everything he had, gave you more production than you've seen out of anybody in a long time at that position. And then you just let him walk because you think you can just replace his production somewhere else by someone else. I think it sends a really bad message to your locker room to do something like that.
Yep.
I'll get on my soapbox now. I think this is something that I'm really going to be watching for this next week, because this is 3 or 4 games in a row now where we're not down by that much, and we completely give up on the run game. And this game especially, you're going into halftime with a very close game, and you still just completely give up on the run game. And when Drew Lock's throwing interceptions, he's hurt. Why are you not then just going back to the run game more, at least giving him a chance to regroup and regain the senses around him, So anyway, there's a lot of that, but I think a lot of people obviously want to talk about Drew Lock. So I guess just start with you guys and get your take on what you saw.
Is it Jared's turn for a soapbox now? Kevin, you just got off of yours.
I got off mine.
I had mine at the beginning, and I'll have another one here with the Drew Lock thing. So you go ahead and start the Drew Lock, and I'll finish it off. Set me up, and I can just bring it down. How's that?
All right. Okay. What I have been looking more for Drew Lock in these games is not necessarily for him to just put it all together and be a 350-yard, 3-touchdown, no interceptions passer just week in and week out now, because he's been in the league, quote unquote, long enough. I'm not expecting him to do Justin Herbert things. I just want him to start improving incrementally at the things that he's just shown week after week that he's not good at right now. And it's fine to not be good at them right now. You're a young quarterback, but you've also got to start doing better at them. At a certain point, you've got to start moving the slider a little bit towards competency instead of going out there every week showing the same issues and just not improving at all. Jared, is that how do you think? Did I set that up for you well? Are you about to bring it down?
You set me up terribly, but I'll save it. Don't worry. Okay. So here it is. I've been a huge Drew Lock supporter this year, towards the end of last year in the offseason, I was very much on the, hey, his footwork's not good. He really needs to improve some stuff during the offseason. Obviously, COVID fucked up a lot of things for a lot of people, including him. No preseason, not really an offseason to really prepare himself for this season. The beginning of the season, everyone's like, give him time. You know, we had a couple okay games at the end of in the fourth quarter. But here's my issue, is the last 2 weeks, we've played the 32nd and 31st pass defense in the league. And we just played the worst pass defense in the league, and he threw 4 interceptions. Yeah. Now, that is, to me, that is mind-blowing. And the fact that we obviously had to keep it with it, and you know, we threw for 47 times. We threw 47 times. He had 4 interceptions, and some of them were straight to the defender, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Now here's my thing. I still think him and Pat Shurmur need to get on the same page. I do not think that what Drew Lock thinks his reads are what Pat Shurmur thinks his reads are. Right? So I think there's a confusion there. Sometimes his reads are not the guy that is supposed to be open, and we can't keep relying on that under every single time to get us that first down, because people are going to start catching on. They have, and or you're not reading it, you're throwing it over the middle. That what we called it on the chat, right? We call it the Drew Lock. Throw it into double coverage over the middle and get the pick, right? So that's the Drew Lock now. So I just don't know. I don't think I'm going to give up on him. I do think he's young. I think he has a lot of time to mature and become better with Pat Shurmur. But my question is now, in week 11 we're going into, what is happening in practice that they're not on the same page at this point?
And that's what
is happening in practice that they're not to the point where maybe something better against the 30. Like, this was my game for me to be like, this is why Drew Lock should be our guy, because the 32nd ranked defense, he should have had a ball with these guys, but he didn't. And I get that the offensive line, right? We talked about the offensive line. I get it. I do understand, but there was a lot of times where he was just bailing out really fast, throwing off his back foot. He really needs to get with somebody and just remember the basics. I don't know. That's all right. So that's mine.
You've coached football, and I guess you brought it up. You know what kind of disconnect there is between Drew Lock and Pat Shurmur. So at least in a coaching sense, what do you do to fix that? Because what I'm seeing on my side is there's nothing being done to fix that. And it makes me question, is anyone addressing this? And I'd imagine that they are. They're trying to, at least. But, you know, this is when they should be performing their best, even with all these injuries. This is like, you know, mid-season form here. And it's getting worse, if you ask me.
So my only thing here is it's all about film study. It's all about film studying and being able to see yourself in the film and see your mistakes as you're going through. So there's a couple reasons why somebody doesn't improve that way. I know we've talked about a couple quarterbacks. I know Brock Osweiler was really bad at film study, right? He was one of the guys that you brought him in, you showed him the film, he was like, cool, I messed up, next, right? It wasn't like, okay, why did I mess up and what can I do better to do that? The other reason during these COVID times, because we didn't have a preseason, we might not be doing as much film study as we probably should be doing. We're trying to get on the practice field. We're trying to get reps at this point because that's what we want. And maybe that's just a mentality, a practice mentality that we do or do not have. But I think a lot of it comes down to film study and understanding what that film study does for you. And I do think, and again, this season, we're going to have to let this season ride out, but I do think Drew Lock needs somebody, the guys that, you know, the guy that Peyton Manning went, I forget his name, he's in Florida, the guy that Peyton Manning went to, Tom Brady, Drew Brees, it's the same guy, he's coached all these guys. He needs to go to him to get those basic mechanics back down, because he has the arm, I think he has the vision for the most part. He's just making stupid back shoulder throws, or off foot throws, back shoulder throws, that he just needs to get it.
And it's especially annoying because when you see him go through his process and do it right on, you know, a handful of plays every game, and it always looks really beautiful. Good. It's fantastic. It's beautiful. And how do you unlock more? And one thing, I don't want to put it all on the rookie center, or even a lot of it on the rookie center. I will say he's getting a lot of pressure up the middle.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. And it's really hard to step up into a pocket when the pressure is coming from right in front of you.
And I think he's a little bit rattled by it, because it's not happening as often as he's rolling out, but it is happening quite a bit. And I think it's just kind of in his head right now that if I don't start moving, you know, he's got an internal clock that is saying to him, now I need to start moving because the pressure is going to come to me from inside. I need to start moving out to my right now. There's nothing open. And I'll tell you what else. If I'm Pat Shurmur, I don't know why I'm not looking at the tape and saying Drew Lock's first read needs to be Jerry Jeudy every play.
Yeah.
Like just every single play because he's open. It's ridiculous how open he is, making professional NFL defensive backs look foolish with his route running. Put him on short and intermediate routes every down, make him the first read every time.
Every time.
Just see what he can do with the ball in his hands. Get it to him and let him go.
Yeah, 100%.
That's a good point. And the other thing, too, I do think that where a lot of our offense has been kind of stalled with the absence of Albert O going out. I know we didn't have him for the first few weeks anyway, but Noah Fant doesn't look fully healthy out there either. I don't think some of his routes looked as crisp as we're used to. I think he's kind of beat up halfway through the season. And obviously, and this is going to go back into it, we talked all this about Drew Lock. First of all, I'm a huge proponent of, I'm not going to shit talk an NFL player because they're in the NFL and we're not. As far as like thinking that you're down because of it, I think he has a lot of improvement to do. There's a lot of cool things he could do, and everybody on the Broncos is a Bronco for me, and I love you guys, man. But here's my thing with the offense and Noah Fant being injured. Drew Lock is also going to be injured. He's day-to-day right now, and I don't know. I think during this QB sneak, I think was it during the third quarter?
Yeah.
That he had the QB sneak and he got injured, and then
Yeah.
I think 2 of the interceptions came after that. Now, I don't want to use it as an excuse as to his bad play and some of his bad decision making, but now we're looking at a different scenario. We're talking about someone that's now day-to-day who hasn't been doing so hot. We don't have anybody behind him other than Brett Rippon. Like,
Right. Yeah.
what are
it's
we
real
going to
thin.
do?
Real thin. And especially against a defensive team like the Dolphins, I don't like the matchup at all against that team at this point with the way they're playing and the way we're playing. That one could get real ugly. Listen to the pregame podcast for more on that. But yeah, he's got to get better. It's hard for us to say he's got to get better at protecting himself because he's got all these line issues. Fifth string right tackle, rookie center, guards swapping in and swapping out. And
Right.
as Keith asks, what's happened to Reisner? He has not been playing to the standard that we thought coming into this season that he was going to be capable of.
So Reisner, and this goes back to the play calling. And again, I'm back and forth on whether or not I like Schumer or not. I was really heavy on Schumer at the beginning. Now I'm kind of like in the middle. A lot of people are calling for his head. But Reisner is an awesome and amazing run blocker. His pass block could get a little bit better. You know what I mean? And now we're using, because we think Drew Lock and we have all these amazing wide receivers, we're using them as our crutch as far as that's our strength. I don't know.
Right. And, you're seeing guys like KJ Hamler grow and Jerry Jeudy grow kind of despite it all. And you're like, what, with a little bit more consistent quarterback play, what could this offense look like with those guys as rookies looking like they are?
Yeah,
Absolutely.
there's so much going on. It's kind of, I don't know if I can pinpoint even a couple issues. I will say, and it was inevitable that I was going to bring this up, or we were at some point, the special teams was not helping us. I mean, when you're starting within your 5-yard line on multiple drives, I mean, at that point, what can you ask the youngest offense in the league to do?
Yeah.
A 98-yard drive to score. How is that not something you ask for of a young offense? I mean, come on.
Peyton Manning, sure. Tom Brady, sure. But injured Drew Lock?
Yeah.
So
And
the special teams needs some help. The special teams, and I love Deontay Spencer. So he's a guy that I followed for a while I was living in Ottawa. He was on the Ottawa Red Blacks. He was a Canadian guy, or went to the CFL, played in the CFL for a while, came down, started playing for us. And honestly, last year he didn't do too bad. He was pretty good as a kick returner. This was his first came back from injury, and he fucked that up. Like, let's be honest, this is exactly what he did. He messed that up. But I do think a lot of it, again, comes down to what the coaches are doing and what the practices are looking like. Why are we consistently so bad at special teams, and then we come into this game and immediately play one before, not even first play of scrimmage, first play before scrimmage is a messed up play.
Yeah, and it's penalties too. It's bad play on special teams, combining with penalties to back the offense up even further. It's another area where I think this team, we haven't really talked about it as much, but it's been a bad spot for this team. Is just getting penalties in tough spots. Like when you're already backed up to your 15-yard line, then you get a false start.
Yep.
It's, things like that have been happening, like just at the most inopportune moments when we need this drive. Like we're down 10-6. And if we do score on this drive, we're still very much in this game. It's a completely different game. But now we go 3 and out because it's 2nd and 15 before we know it. You know what I mean? It's been happening a lot to this team. And it's just, I think, a symptom of how young they are and how little this coaching staff has had time to be with these guys.
Speaking of coaching staff, Juan here is asking if we see the coaching staff getting on the hot seat. You guys have heard my answer, and I think we're pretty much in agreement with this, but I'll let you guys go first.
I am so sick and tired of the quarterback carousel. I'm so sick and tired of the coaching carousel. I'm so sick and tired of all of it. We have the youngest offense in the league. We have probably one of the most injured, I think the most injured defense in the league on IR or on and off IR. I mean, the week before we were missing both of our starting corners. On this, I mean, we're still missing all of our top paid guys are pretty much all gone on IR. I don't think this is a situation where we call for their heads. This is one of those scenarios where, look, the second season of Vance Joseph, I was absolutely for get rid of him. Let's try something new. But I just don't see it this year. I see them getting better. I see them doing things. I see the offense is starting to get a little bit better as far as some things. Obviously, the Drew Lock scenario we talked about, and then the running game. There's some things that need to be worked out. I just don't see that being a time to start fresh because, look, since 2015, I'm so sick and tired of starting fresh. Can we just stop for just a couple seasons and see where this brings us?
Yeah. And, I understand the impulse because you kind of look around the league at some other teams who make big changes at coaching and then at quarterback kind of in the same offseason, and then it comes together really well for them. And,
yes.
It's easy to say if we just get the right combination of guys there, it can work right now. And
right.
I don't think all as easy as that. I'm certainly not as easy as that. Jared, you seem tapped out there.
I finished this one.
Ah, good. Okay. All right.
If anybody was wondering.
That's a nice scotch. Anyway, I think this year, anyway, you're going to have a COVID asterisk by kind of everything that happens, and for that reason alone, I think the coaching staff probably gets another year. Tom McMahon, I hope, is exempt from that asterisk and I think you could easily see a scenario where he's your sacrificial lamb, and somebody on the coaching staff is going to go after you start 3-6 for the 4th consecutive season, and then end up God knows where we're going to end up, but. If you're going to fire somebody, that's at least high profile enough that people know who that is, and low impact enough that it doesn't affect what you're trying to do as a whole team next season.
So for me, why not get rid of him right now, Mahone? Why not? I mean, what are you going to lose with getting special teams? McMahon, sorry. What are you going to lose with special teams? I mean, can they get worse? I mean, they can probably, but not by much. So, I mean, what's the harm in at least saying we're going to fire it? We're going to, it's time to let you go, man. Like this halfway through the season, this has been a problem for years now, and we are the worst in the league by far. It's not getting any better. So, I mean, that's just not saying that this needs to happen, but
if we didn't fire him after it was last week, Atlanta, right? That he was the one that was like, no, the kicker can't do this. And McManus was like, are you kidding me? I was killing it. Like, what are you kidding me? If he wasn't fired after that week, we're probably going to keep him for a couple more weeks. Now, if he has another showing like Oakland, if the special teams have another showing like Oakland, or the Vegas Raiders, god damn it, I'm going to do that for the next 6 years for those of you that follow Orange Weekly. I still call them the San Diego Chargers. So,
the referee called them the Oakland Raiders during the game. Okay, I think
so. You not the only one. Yeah. So, if they didn't fire him during Atlanta, but if he has another showing like we did against the Raiders, like I think he will be gone before season's end. Now, and this goes back to the point of, and the reason why Broncos country is so used to this, and so actually that's a good point. I didn't realize that. Pull that back up, Kev. Wow, I forgot that he was a special teams coordinator for that play that's stupid where everybody lined up on the one side. John, thanks for that, man. I did not know that. That is fucking crazy.
I'll tell you, this is how much. This will tell you more than anything how much of a boys' club the NFL is. That man still has a job.
Yeah.
You know, like, geez.
That is literally one of the jokes, the biggest joke. That and butt fumble are probably two of the biggest jokes of the NFL.
Oh, Mark Sanchez
and we had
also
both of them on the
former
Broncos.
Bronco. Yeah, I was going to say.
Okay, so going back to it, the reason Broncos country is so used to being like, fire everybody, hire someone new, because let's remember, Gary Kubiak was a new coach. We brought him in as a new coach. He won the Super Bowl. And we're used to that kind of ideology of like, hey, we could be great. We just need the right guy to be coaching us. Gary Kubiak was that guy. We brought him in. He ended up bringing us to a Super Bowl. I get it. I understand the impulse to want to do that. I don't think this is one of those situations.
Yeah. And there's, you know, who are you going to get is the other thing. Like, what, you know, there's going to be a bunch of teams with, I think, better on paper opportunities than the Broncos this offseason as head coaching candidates. It's such a weird offseason coming off of the COVID year. You don't really know what you're going to have coming in as a new NFL coach. You know, there's so much more uncertainty built into this next offseason than you've ever had before. To not go into it with the same coaches and staff, to me, is a pretty big challenge.
Right. I think we're all in agreement here. And I, like you said, I get a lot of people are upset and, you know, we need a win now kind of thing. I think across the board, especially for Drew Lock, you got to give him this offseason, get everybody back and healthy, give him the full offseason, the full training camp experience, all of it. Send him back out there. And if you want to know, hey, when are we going to be able to tell if Drew Lock is our guy or not? I'm thinking about this time next year, we're going to start having a pretty good idea where he's gonna land.
Yeah.
That's gonna be kind of. I think you're right. The end of the clock for him, or getting to near the end of the clock for him.
So, and I've seen this a couple times, and I'm not opposed to it because we did see him in 5 games last year. But if you were looking at this from a rookie quarterback standpoint, I get it. Give him some time. Give him some time. Give him the year. At this point next year, I mean, 5 games into next year, we're gonna be singing a different song or the same song, and it's gonna be he's gonna be replaced, and we're gonna have some sort of backup plan, hopefully, if that's the case. Obviously, all of us here, and I don't want to speak for everybody, but I assume so, we're just hoping that Drew Lock kind of fixes his stuff, becomes a quarterback of the future, because we're all tired of the quick carousel, and we just become the Super Bowl champions in 2023.
Sure. But that's the thing. Like, I'm not saying that Drew Lock needs to come out next year and just be spectacular. Amazing.
Try that again. No. Hold on. There it is. Okay.
Blah, 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 blah. Doesn't need to be spectacular, but it shows some at least decent improvement. Look like it's your second full year as a QB. You're going to make dumb mistakes, but are you getting more consistent? Are you being able to bounce back from your mistakes easier? I think what we're looking at right now is trouble bouncing back from those bad games. You know, it started back in the 4th quarter against the Patriots, and I can't say that it's gotten really any better since then. Maybe a little bit, but it seems like as soon as another interception is thrown or something happens, you just takes 2 steps backwards, you know? So, you know, give him the offseason to process that, look back, and, you know, when he makes a dumb mistake next year, can he bounce back and get over it quickly and get back to the game and making things happen? So, that's me. I'm not off the Drew Lock train. I want him to succeed. I don't want to get rid of him off this offseason. I don't think none of us anyway do, but yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Do we talk about how good the defense looked at all for, like, you know, 2 quarters?
Yeah. So, I mean, I was looking at the stats here, David, you know, we are still a top 5 defense in every category. I think when it comes to the pass rush is where we're worst at number 5.
Yeah.
But you know, the numbers more than halfway the season at this point, we very solidly have a top 5 defense.
Yeah.
But I think I can't remember who said it earlier here in the chat, and we'll get back to that here in a little bit. What else can they do? You know,
and it's, it really gives me pause because we've seen it before, the schism between offense and defense. You know what I mean? The players on the defense just get frustrated with the offensive players' inability to do things. You know, you really want these guys to be able to come together in a season like this, especially, and instead they're kind of being torn apart by this locker room conflict of one side of the ball being really effective and the other side not. And yeah, there's only one defensive touchdown in Fangio's time here in Denver. And that, that is what it is. Obviously, you'd like your defense to be a little more productive than that. But on the other hand, you don't want to be relying on your defense, I think, to score points for you in a game to give you a meaningful chance to win. Like that should be a nice extra instead of a thing you need. You know what I mean?
Right. Exactly. Robert, he'll be right back. He went to go comb it out for a second, just to make sure it was. So
it's going to look rich and full when he gets back. Don't worry about it. It's going to look so good.
But yeah, so I mean, yeah, you can look at, and John, I mean, you're right. What I think you would see is obviously we're still not great at the turnover ratio, right?
Yeah.
But if you look at it, we're the ones having to switch to just a pure passing game because we're so far behind later in the game. There's no reason for the other team to make, passes that probably aren't very smart, trying to just make something happen, right? That's happening to us. Yeah. So there's not many opportunities to get that interception or whatnot and be able to get it back for that pick six or whatever. So I don't know. I think that considering the way the offense is playing, the fact that we have a top 5 defense and that we're at least in these games for at least the first half before we make that fourth quarter comeback, I think it says a lot about Fangio and the defense as a whole.
And I think, need to give all the props that we can to Bryce Callahan after being pretty hard on him last season, with the whole he doesn't exist thing. He certainly exists.
He exists. And I'm glad to see him out of the Miles suit.
Playing, I think, the second best of any cornerback in the NFL, according to Pro Football Focus. Yeah. And being on all these short fields and knowing what the offense is going to try and strike, at you when you have when they give you, these opportunities, when the Broncos offense gives the ball away, it makes playing defense that much harder. And to have a guy playing at that high a level, I think we've got to give up major props.
100%. I mean, you saw how beat up our secondary was against Atlanta and how easily they were able to just pick us apart there, right?
Yeah.
They still held their own, but it was very obvious. And what I liked was early on in the game, Vegas was just constantly testing Callahan. He's been out a few weeks. Maybe he's not up to full speed yet. And the first couple plays, it was like, oh, like, yeah. But after that, like, he got into it and they just kept throwing to him. Yeah. Like, guys, it's not working.
Right.
Stop.
He's good.
Why are you doing this? He's good. He's back. He's healthy. He's shutting you down.
And they really were able to take that big over the top play away that the Raiders offense likes. And when they were shutting down the run early, it was all looking good. It just, as we talked about a little bit earlier, they were just on the field the entire time. Robert, we're going to definitely be taking you up on that offer if we ever get the chance. We hope to get similar offers from all of you here on our Orange Weekly following, but maybe not all at the same time. We can only handle so much.
100%. Top fan right there, man. I love it.
Mm-hmm.
Look, after the last couple of days, I've been needing to drown my tears. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, hey guys, obviously we're gonna be here for a little while longer. Keep posting your comments, questions, trying to get to them the best we can. You're all phenomenal. So
appreciate it, guys.
100%. Let's see. Let me go back to this one first. Still pissed that Booker got 2 TDs. Yeah. That was just, Jacobs was running kind of all over us for the, at least the second half there, and got him a couple touchdowns. They're like, you know what? Booker, go out there. Your old team, stick it to him. And he did.
That's a John Gruden special. He loves to stick it to you with your old guys, God. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, and that's one thing I'll tell you. Another thing, I was skeptical of the whole John Gruden thing when he came back into the league. I didn't know that was going to work out, but credit to them, I guess. I hate the Raiders with a fiery passion, but they've clearly known what they wanted to do as a coaching staff and then implemented it with their players.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
So they were worried about, they were asking Jared, where did the stash go? So I told them you went to go brush it out, make sure
Right.
it looks good and bring it back. So.
It needs grooming. It needs
definitely
grooming
grooming.
to make
I
it
was-
grow this full and luxurious.
I'm not gonna lie, I was really anticipating you coming back with like a fake mustache just on there, and then like not saying anything about it, just like seeing,
Just sitting like
Hey, guys.
comically fake, like
Right,
something
yeah.
like just absolutely ridiculous.
right, and then straight facing it the whole time. That's what I was expecting. I'm kind of glad on one level and disappointed on another level that you subverted those expectations.
Well, I'm back. I'm back and ready to talk about how. Well, I think I heard how terrible John Gruden is. Is that what we're on?
Yes.
Because I like that combo.
Yeah.
I was actually giving some reluctant praise to John Gruden, unfortunately.
Oh.
Yeah, I know. I didn't want to be here either, Jared, but here we go. Okay.
Wow. I left
Yeah.
on a high note and I came back to that. This is just
sure did.
this is
Yeah.
just awful.
Yeah.
It really is, guys.
Yeah, you should have seen what happened while you were gone. Anyway, yeah, Gruden is a prick, John. We're in 100% agreement about that. Gruden's a great big, yeah. Robert also says, Jared, I have a better mustache than you.
Everybody has a better mustache than me.
That's true. That's true. And Robert, that is a pretty good mustache. It looks very neat. But yeah,
I do appreciate that.
Not a high bar.
So if you guys didn't know, John here runs his own little page called, maybe not little, but his own page, That Critical Broncos Fan. So everybody watching, if you don't follow That Critical Broncos Fan, go check him out. John's been great kind of throwing us facts throughout the show too. So,
Yeah, no, it's been great.
tip of my hat there to you, good sir. But yeah, so go check him out. So
Absolutely.
Have we started talking about the next game?
No,
No,
let's get
We've
into
talked
that.
we've talked a lot of crap about this last game, and it was depressing. And we spent 41 minutes talking about it. Let's talk about
You
the
know what
cool
else is
things that we can
depressing?
have going on.
you know what else is depressing?
What's that?
Looking for car insurance, man. Looking for any kind of insurance.
It gets me
is
down.
depressing. You see
Yeah.
all these numbers thrown around at you.
So sad.
People just like, here, just give us your money, and you're like, I don't know what's going on, right? What you all should do if you're looking for car insurance, homeowners insurance, whatever it is, contact Centennial State Insurance Agency, smaller insurance agency, but they will give you that one-on-one personal care, customer service you're not going to get anywhere else. You'll have a dedicated insurance agent that knows you, they know your family, they know your situation. If something ever happens, God forbid, and you need their help, whether it's an accident or whatever the case is, you call them and your insurance agent will be the one taking care of you, not you waiting on hold for 30 minutes. Maybe somebody named Tim in India answers and they don't really care because they're about to go home for the day at the end of their shift. So anyway, give Centennial State Insurance Agency a call. Again, fantastic people. 303-838-5445.
Not our
It's down there at the bottom of the screen.
05-
Just take.
0554.
It's down the bottom under David.
Under David. Anyway, so that's
There it is.
depressing, but they make it not depressing. So
They do. They make it not depressing, and they make it quick and easy, and like a friend, like a neighbor,
friend.
or not a neighbor. That's another story.
That's
Anyways,
an insurance company, Jared.
check out Centennial State. Okay, so let's talk about the Dolphins.
Here you go. Wait, hold on. That's good.
Oh, that's a good.
That's
one.
good.
Yep.
Okay, sorry.
Yep.
Okay,
So,
moving on.
so before we get into this, yes. So Devontae Harris, I'm not sure if you saw, but I'm pretty sure he got cut from the team this week. He's had a couple of rough games. I was a big fan of Devontae Harris, and I've been a fan of. Nice, thanks, Keith. I've been a big fan of Devontae Harris for a while, and he had a couple of really, really rough games, which is unfortunate. And I don't know where that came from or what it is. We got Bosby back. It looks like we let Devontae Harris go. So good luck to him wherever he goes. Hopefully he doesn't end up like another Bradley Roby playing for a really good team, and playing against us. But good luck to him.
Yeah, Bradley Roby's
hopefully-
not that good either. Go ahead, Jared.
Yeah, but no, I agree. I was pretty high on Devontae Harris. It sucks to see him have a couple bad games like that and then get let go. But that is the game and that is the NFL. So now let's move on. Let's talk about Tua and the Miami Dolphins.
I'll tell you what. I feel like you're gonna regret that comical bit that you just did there, where you pretended not to know how to say Tungavailoa.
I haven't.
Tungavailoa. See, I knew how to say it. I was thirsty. I had dry mouth. I just had to.
It was the dry mouth. Well, we in Broncos country are going to pay the price for your dry mouth collectively. I think the football gods are not going to look kindly on that.
Have they been looking kindly on us at all?
No, but then Team Visor just tempted fate. They just tempted fate. And, I don't think that's a great way to go in the season like this. I don't like the matchup. I was saying a little bit before. One thing that really stands out to me as a reason for concern is the Dolphins' special teams or defense has contributed a score in like 4 or 5 straight games, I think. And that speaks to one of our greatest weaknesses, the special teams especially. So I'm very concerned about that aspect of the game before we get into anything else.
So I like how you said one of the biggest weaknesses on the team there, David. That was very nice of you, because if you asked me, they are the major fucking weakness that is just, it's not even trying to be nice about it anymore in my book. It's just abysmal. But yeah, I mean, that's a very good point, you know? You're looking at these guys and you're seeing how many terrible things they're doing every game. You're looking at the Dolphins saying, you know, their special teams is helping them out tremendously. That's a bad matchup if you ask me. That's absolutely terrible.
Yeah. They're blocking kicks. They're returning them for touchdowns. It's go ahead, Jared.
So yes, they're doing pretty well, but I think that means if we don't see some sort of game plan against that, like punting it out of bounds, kicking it out of the back of the end zone, the only thing that's saving the Denver Broncos right now, the Denver Broncos special teams, and we're still 32nd league, is Brendan McManus. And if it wasn't for him, we would probably have historically the worst special teams league.
A number 33 spot. And that'd be for us, okay?
And they put the Alabama special teams up at 32.
There it is. Yeah, there it is. LSU special teams off the top. No, I do think if we don't game plan for that, that's another reason we're talking about having Tom McMahon. McMahon, right? McMahon. If we don't have a good game or a game plan against their good special teams against our horrid special teams, then there's an issue here.
You look at it, other teams are game planning against our special teams. Why do you think they're kicking it at 1 yard deep? Why are they setting us up for a return? Because they know how terrible we are. You see other teams, they're like, hey, they have a good kicker. It's just going to go out of bounds. We're not even tempted, right? They are saying, no, we know how shitty you are. Go for it. We want you to return this. And that's probably the more embarrassing part, not just how terrible we are, but other teams are comfortable enough to give us the chance to return it because they know it's going to hurt us more than anything.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I would too. I mean, that's kind of the point. That's how that works out. One day we're going to return a kickoff for a touchdown, and we're all going to be sitting here doing the exact same thing we're doing now, drinking and talking about it. So Miami Dolphins offense, Tua Tungalova. I said it. There it is. That's exactly how you say it. Look, he's been playing pretty well this season, but again, this goes back to what I was saying about basically all rookie quarterbacks. Any new quarterback coming in that is winning and doing pretty well, you really haven't been able to study him and see what his tendencies are, what he likes to do, where he likes to go with the ball. After about 4 or 5 games, you're going to see that. I'd like to see the Denver Broncos be that game that really figures out what it is that he does and to be able to stop it. He's got a lot of weapons and he's got a very good offensive line, so it's going to be very difficult for our defense.
John, we are home this weekend. I will actually be at that game. The last time I was at the Dolphins game a couple years ago, we drove from Pensacola down to Miami, got our asses kicked, and it was a very long drive back. So we'll try it this time and see if there's any different results being here in Denver. But
we'll see. Because the other tough thing is the Dolphins' defense, and especially their defensive secondary. Really, really interesting if you're the Dolphins. Really bad matchup if you're the Broncos, whether Drew Lock or Brett Rippon is going to be playing ultimately this week. They've got Xavier Howard. They've got Noah Igbenogany, who they drafted in the first round. I know they've got some other guys who I'm not thinking of. Didn't they add a fairly big free agent corner this offseason?
Don't worry, I'll Google it.
Okay. Well, why don't we vamp while we're doing that? And tell you that we are Orange Weekly. We come to you with live shows every single week. The Bourbon Broncos No BS show every Tuesday. We've got the pregame podcast. We've got the postgame podcast. We've got written content every single week at BroncosOrangeWeekly.com. We've got Ragers every single weekend. You can catch Ray and Jared doing that. We've got Orange Weekly After Dark most Monday nights. We've got content coming at you every single week. Every single day of every single week. And Kevin and I believe, will be calling the Saints game from Colorado Cork and Keg on the 29th. Not this game, but the game after. As long as, Kev, you manage to make it out of the stadium this week after the Dolphins game. We'll see what happens there.
Right.
We'll see.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see. I don't know.
Yeah.
But yes, we will be there. And the only thing you left out there, David, which was
What did I miss?
pretty damn good, the
Uh-huh.
halftime hash.
Oh, the halftime.
Halftime
yes.
hash.
Ah,
But that was
The original,
good.
for the record, the original halftime show, internet halftime show,
If
right
you
here,
think-
Orange Weekly.
If you see anyone else out there doing a halftime show, they're copycats. Just straight up. They got that from us.
I left it out on purpose because I knew you guys had extra stuff to add.
we had that flair. We had the
Right.
extra flair we had to add.
Put some flair
Okay,
on it.
so their base defense, we have Shaq Lawson, who we all know pretty well, Landon Roberts, Jeremy Baker, Kyle Van Noy. I think he was the offseason sign, was he not?
Yeah, they had some Patriots South defense vibes going on, but John is right. They signed Byron
Jones,
from
yeah, in the corner.
That's who I was thinking of. So, yeah, they've got a pretty all-star secondary there.
So, I mean,
what
if you're talking about a game where you need to rely on the run game, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No,
You're
please.
talking about a game where you need to rely on the run game. Philip Lindsay. I mean, you don't want Drew Lock out there passing for 47, attempts throughout the game.
No.
I would like to not see that ever again. I'm so tired of seeing these 40 plus to like 19 minus runs. I'm so sick. I want to see a more balanced offense. Don't get me wrong. I love the fact that we have some weapons at the wide receiver position, but if you're throwing every down and they know you're throwing every down, it's very difficult to throw every down unless you have an established offense, and we don't.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
So we'll see. That's definitely going to be something I want to hear about you guys talking about in your pregame podcast, Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, wherever you listen to your podcast. But yeah, so, I think there's a couple big things I'm looking for. Obviously, I think if the special teams can improve somewhat, that could have a pretty big impact in how our team does as a whole. Just cut out these stupid mistakes. They don't have to be the number one or heck, the number 16 or 20 special teams for the week. Just not be the absolute worst, and you're going to give our offense, good yardage, good field position. You're going to stop the other team from getting good returns. I mean, those are the things that it's when you're talking about the yardage situation where your team starts on the field. That adds up throughout the course of the game, and different pressures your offense and defense has. So I think what we're looking at this right now, I'm incredibly worried about that, but I think it doesn't take much to kind of turn that around very much. You know what I mean?
Well, and go ahead, Jared.
Can I just say that we have a crazy ex-girlfriend situation with the end zone this year? Just absolutely avoid them at all costs unless there's nothing left to lose. Like, it is absolutely ridiculous that we can't score unless we just throw it up and see what happens. Like, it's ridiculous.
And what bothers me the most is it's kind of another week where the defense has a good matchup. Like, I get it. Tagovailoa is playing well. The Dolphins' offense has some pieces. They've got Preston Williams, who is fucking huge. They've got Devontae Parker, who is just like every year the guy who gets forgotten and just compiles a bunch of stats anyway. But I think Mike Gesicki, is he still playing tight end there? That
Yes.
could be. We'll see what happens with that. But, it's another one where if the defense isn't on the field the entire game, they've got a decent shot to do really good things against this young quarterback and really confuse him. I just really worry that if the offense is in – Preston Williams is on IR. All right, well, he's not going to be playing. Thanks, John. But regardless, if they're on the field the entire game, I think the Dolphins offense is going to find opportunities just to get there. The Broncos offense has got to stay out of 3 and outs.
And with our defense and the issues that we've had at defensive line, this is what scares me the most. This offensive line is super, super special. They have a lot of big guys. They have a lot of strong guys on that offensive line that are just going to be able to bully us if we allow them to. So I know it's a scary matchup. It's a scary matchup in Denver after a huge blowout loss to our rivals. You'd like to see the Broncos bounce back in a big way, but we've been burned before.
Yeah, and I got to take the L on one thing. Anybody who reads my Team Trends column, and I know everybody who's watching now does, I predicted a big week for Bradley Chubb, and it did not come off that way against the Raiders. So, hopefully he can get back on track at a certain point. But like you're saying, Jared, that's a tough matchup for him this week.
Yep, and you know what? Rangers took a big L this week too.
I was going to ask how that turned out.
We lost most of our bets. I think we lost all. We only took 3 this week, and we lost all 3. And one of them was Philip Lindsay's yards at 35 or something ridiculous. I took a couple extra bets at 30. Philip Lindsay getting over like 6 carries. He didn't even get that. Like, it was just absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, this is the accountability section of the Bourbon Broncos and No BS show.
Yeah, it's the accountability. We sit here and hound on ourselves for the shitty decisions we made in the week before.
That's right.
I mean, you guys are still up positive on the season, aren't you?
Oh yeah, we're way up positive. We're up by like 10. I think like 8 or 9 bets right now. I think it's like 21, like 13 and 4 or something like that. I think is where we're sitting. So we're doing pretty good. We're still doing pretty good on the season. It's just been a couple rough weeks for both the Denver Broncos and Rangers.
Good Lord.
Yeah.
Okay, guys. Maybe some closing thoughts around the room, and just where do we go from here? Drew Lock, the Broncos, special teams.
At this point, it's just where it show me something or get as high a draft pick as you can. I'm not saying obviously there won't be any tanking of any kind, but at a certain point you kind of just don't want them to be winning games for the sake of winning games. You want to kind of see them either put things together and like really show some meaningful growth, especially on the offensive side of the ball, or you just start looking towards next season.
That is interesting closing thoughts. Expecting Rippon to start. Drew Lock is banged up, and after a rough game with a lot of people kind of calling for him, you know what? Vic Fangio has said it. Drew Lock is our quarterback. We're going to stick with Drew Lock as our quarterback, and that's what we're going to do. If he can be healthy, he's going to be in there. And if Rippon does start, we back him up. And guess what? We're Broncos country. We're going to back up whoever's in there right now at this time. Yeah. We could be critical of whoever. I went on a tirade at the beginning of the episode. I'm going to go on the tirade at the end. Broncos fans are starting to get a little bit like Raiders fans and New England fans, where they just want to go on and talk shit to the players and talk about how they missed reads and they missed guys. Like, first of all, none of us are sitting there. None of us are there. None of us know what your reads were. None of us know what you're doing. And I'll be the first to admit that we're not the ones. While we could be critical and everything, congratulations for being there. Keep working hard and get to where you need to be and grind. And if you get left behind, go on to a next team. I hope you guys do good. I think we're starting to get to the point where Broncos country is getting really frustrated to the point of no return, and I'd like to see us be a little bit more supporting of our Denver Broncos, regardless of what our record is, regardless of where we're at. Go Broncos, and that's it. That's what it is. That's what we're here for, and that's what we'll always be here for.
I think what we've been trying the last couple of weeks, especially, haven't been working. You gotta find at this point in the season, what can we change up that is, one, going to throw the other team off, but also just help us function better on the field. I think one of those big things, like you were talking about earlier, Jared, is figuring out what kind of disconnect there is between Drew Lock, the team, and Pat Shurmur, and whether it's in the reads. David, you're talking about it. Jerry Jeudy just needs to be the number one read, short routes, get the ball to him, have him make the plays, right, versus relying purely on Drew Lock's arm to throw it down the field. I think those are some of the big things. Overall, I mean, Philip Lindsay, if I'm looking for anything this game, it's going to be to see how they use Philip Lindsay. And I think that's going to say a lot. I mean, if they don't use him again this next game, there should be people out there asking some questions. What is going on? You know, even if it's just there's some personal stuff going on. He's working through it. We're trying to be supportive. Give us an answer. You know, it doesn't have to be specific, but let us know that you at least recognize that you're, in my opinion, the number one running back on your team is not being utilized. Melvin Gordon's the number one guy because he's getting paid more, but in my book, that's not the way it is. You're underutilizing him. You're giving him reasons to leave the team this offseason, and I just don't want that to happen. So that's kind of where I'm at. You know, we can talk about how we're not mathematically eliminated. I think we just need to start focusing on the players and, you know, evaluating them and finding something that works so that we can take that into the rest of the season and next year.
Yeah, no, it sounds like it is a echoed across Broncos country is to feed Lindsey, feed Phil. I think you know what my favorite meme was? I think there's a Netflix special. I think it's like a cooking show or something, and the cooking show is called Feed Phil. And somebody took a picture of it and it was like, send this to Broncos country. Like, send this to the Broncos coaches. Feed fucking Phil. We need to feed Phil. I love it, and I agree with you 100%, Kev. It's 100% right.
John's in agreement with us as well. And again, check out his page, The Critical Broncos Fan. Great stuff there as well. So I think that's it, guys. Everyone check out the post-game podcast, the pre-game podcast coming up. You know, it's already Tuesday. It'll be game day before you know it, and be taking on the Dolphins. See what happens. Any given Sunday, right, boys?
Absolutely.
Sunday.
Cool. Well, with that, I think we could always just end it on a very strong
Go Broncos.
Go Broncos. Cheers, everyone. Take care.
Cheers.
Do what I like, yeah, I do what I like, yeah, I do what I like. Sipping goose, sip is right, and I go with the flow, yeah, I go with the flow, yeah, I go with the flow, cause I know I'm the show. In the zone, here I go, in the zone, here I go, in the zone, here I go, yeah.